Welcome back to Today, and we've stepped outside as we get set to host an exclusive live town hall with Donald Trump in our next hour.
Doesn't travel alone these days. He's brought a lot of support with him. We welcome his wife Melania, along with his adult children, Donald Jr., Ivanka, Eric, and Tiffany. All of you, welcome. Good to have you here on the plaza. Let me, yes, you can clap. Let me start by asking you all for one word, not you, but the rest of you, one word. Give me one word to describe this campaign.
Leadership.
Incredible.
Inspiring.
Certainly energetic.
Motivational.
Motivational?
When you think about what's happened so far, is there a favorite moment, a best moment that comes to mind? Ivanka?
I think for me, seeing the actual rallies and seeing him interact with people all over this country has been the most amazing thing, because obviously we see it now materializing in terms of the actual votes, but seeing him inspiring so many people, seeing his message resonate so strongly, seeing the passion and the love and the enthusiasm and many of the adjectives that were used just a couple of minutes ago is pretty remarkable. So I've watched him inspire thousands of executives over the years as a leader of a large company, but now to see him do it on a much larger stage and in a much larger capacity is remarkable.
I think, by the way, some of the other family members might say 3.5 weeks ago when you had a baby would be one of the best moments on the campaign.
That's where I was going, Matt.
That would count.
I don't really consider that a campaign
That's
moment.
okay.
It's more
It happened
a family
during
moment,
the campaign. Have there been moments, this family has grown up in a very high profile where you're used to the spotlight, but this is different. I mean, the crowds, the Secret Service, have there been moments, guys, when you wish you could put the genie back in the bottle?
Honestly, I think no, in the sense that it's time. I mean, when you look at this country and you look at the things that have happened, I think it's time to get someone who's not just the typical politician, not someone that's beholden to special interests, just doing the same old thing. They tell you what you want to hear, and then they go do whatever the people that are writing their checks do. And I think it's time, and you can see by the reaction. I've had people come up to me all over the country that we've been traveling, and I mean, some of them in tears, just thank you for letting your father do this, as though I had any control whatsoever, right? But thank you for letting him do this. And it means so much to us, and it really is time, and I think people believe that.
Melania, you've told a story before about when he talked about running. You said, well, I kind of hope you don't, but if you do run, you will win. Do you think, as far as he's gotten, has surprised even Donald about that it's really gotten this close where he's about to clinch the Republican nomination potentially?
Yeah, it's unbelievable what is going on. And for so long, he's #1 for now 10 months. And I never thought about it. I know his energy. I know how people love him, how they connect to him. He's telling the truth. And I said, if you will run, you will win. So
did he believe that then?
I don't know. You need to ask him that.
Did you?
Yeah, I'm not so sure. She believed it. I'm not so sure. But yeah, I had confidence. I know the people of the country, and they want to see things happen. And honestly, they want to see things happen quickly.
Let me ask you all this question personally, not politically. You've been through a wild ride over this last year. You've watched the ups and downs of this campaign, the great moments, the difficult moments. You're now getting to a point where it looks like he's going to get the most votes of any candidate on the Republican side. You're going to go to Cleveland. How is it going to feel personally if the rest of the Republican Party does whatever they can to prevent him from getting the nomination, personally?
Well, Matt, I think it's happened for a long time, but listen, we're proud of him. We could not be more proud of him. We've worked next to our father every single day, for the last 10 years, and we're having so much fun with it, but we're proud of him. I mean, the man's done something that no one's ever done before, and they've tried to hold him back the entire time. I mean, they've really tried to hold him back.
But when you get to Cleveland, what's it going to feel like in your gut to watch what happens there?
Well, we're going to win in Cleveland. I mean, we are really going to win in Cleveland. There's just no question about it.
Tiffany, how about you?
I think that truly we need to look at what an amazing thing he's done for all of us. He was doing this for, our family, for the country. He really believes in making America great again. And, let's hope that what happened in Cleveland is positive and, luckily he's continuing to excel. So we're just very proud.
Well, we know that Mr. Trump values his children, not just as children, but as advisors, particularly you, Ivanka. People say you're one of his top advisors. What's a piece of advice you've given him about running a general election against Hillary Clinton?
Well, I think he values our advice all equally, but I tend not to provide my advice on topics political like that. I think his instincts are incredible. I think he will do incredibly well, as he's done incredibly well to date. And really, you know, my role as his daughter is to support him. I'm obviously his advocate. I've seen what he's done, both as a parent on a personal level and as a leader who's grown an enormous business and succeeded in many businesses, building many businesses and setting the vision for them. So I have no doubt that he can apply that to this country and fix the many problems we have. So I am his daughter and supporter. So that's the extent of it.
All right, so this one, you mentioned him as a parent and on a personal note. So Melania and kids, jump in on these. These are kind of rapid fire. This is, you know, the potpourri section of the interview. We watch him on the campaign trail. He's extremely intense. What makes him emotional? When's the last time you saw him cry?
I don't know that we've seen him cry all that often, Matt, but you know what? It's great. You know, now that he's a grandfather as well, and I have 5 kids, and Ivanka has 3 kids, you know, watching him play with them, I mean, you really see another side of Donald Trump. I mean, there is the images as the business guy, but when you see him around a family table, I mean, the sense of humor, the love, you know, playing golf with my 20-month-old, like teaching her how to swing a golf club, you know, it's a special moment. It's really incredible to watch, and it's a totally different side that no one really gets to see.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
I agree with that. He's amazing with my children as well, and I actually see Trumpisms picked up by each of them from spending time with him, especially during the summers. So he's remarkable in that capacity. I think, though, he has tremendous empathy as well, and I think that's a side people don't really see. My whole life, I've watched as he's ripped stories out of newspapers that he's read about something that's happened to somebody or adversity that somebody's being faced with, often put in a situation where they don't have the power to affect change and they were unfairly put there. And he'll actually proactively reach out to that person, bring them into the office and help them. And that's not reported, that's not seen, but I've witnessed it my whole life. So he's incredibly empathetic in that regard to what's happening to other people.
And Mrs. Trump will give you a fun one for the end. Every wife wants to answer this question. What's the one habit you wish he'd give up?
Let's see.
McDonald's.
Retweeting.
All right, let's end it there. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the quietest Donald Trump has ever been for 7 minutes in his life.
I can verify that, Matt. I can verify that.
All right, the Trump family, thank you very much. Still ahead, Mr. Trump answers your questions in our exclusive town hall right on the plaza. We're back after this. Welcome back, everyone, to our exclusive town hall meeting with Donald Trump, the Republican presidential frontrunner. Mr. Trump, good morning again. Good to have you here.
Good morning.
Congratulations on a huge win in New York this week. Normally, with that win and this stage of the race, you would basically have the nomination in your hand. This is a different kind of year, though. But let's say you do have the nomination. Let's say you're going to be the guy in the general election. You look at some of the polling right now. You have an enormous negative number. 68% of people say they can't support you. Would you admit you have a lot of work to do?
Well, I think it's going to go very quickly, frankly. I've been hit by 55,000 ads. I saw it on your show. 55,000 negative ads, and nobody else has. You know, you look at a guy like Kasich. He's never been hit by an ad because nobody cares, frankly. And no, it's true. No, it's so true. And Cruz isn't hit with negative ads, but, you know, they went after me both sides, my side, the other side. And despite that, I won Florida with almost 21 points, you know, in a landslide. I've won mostly landslides. I've won 22 or 24 states, and nobody else is even close. And, you know, the main thing, millions and millions of votes more than anybody else has. Like, you know.
But that's the Republican primary.
Yeah.
30 million people vote in the Republican primary, 130 million vote in the general election. And if you look at these polls and you look at the specifics and the swing voters who decide elections in this country, in poll after poll, 69% of women disapprove, 67% of independents, young people, 70% unfavorable. That's not just one poll, it's several. So what work do you have to do? How are you going to convince them that you are their candidate?
When people see that I'm going to bring jobs back to this country, when they see that I'm going to strengthen up the military, when they see that I'm going to have strong borders like nobody else can have, and we will build the wall, and Mexico will pay for the wall, by the way. But when they see that we're getting rid of Obamacare, which is a total disaster, and we're going to be replacing it with something good. When they see we're going to get rid of Common Core, which is also likewise a total catastrophe, and we're bringing education locally so it can be run by local communities and the parents of the children, and it's going to be wonderful and beautiful and much better. When they see what we're going to do, and maybe above all, when they see we're going to we are going to make some of the great trade deals. Every deal we have is a total disaster. Our country's losing a fortune. Now, women, if you saw my big win in New York, it was a landslide. It's like unprecedented. Women were one of the highest demographics.
But again, Savannah's point is a valid one, though. It's different in a Republican primary that isn't a general election.
But I think it'll come along.
And some of the things you've said, and I'm not going to go into all the words, I don't think we have to, and some of the insults, but about women and Mexicans and Muslims, you can't unsay those things. So how do you convince them? Because, by the way, they've been listening to all the things you just said about jobs and the wall.
But I think it's about, look, I did some things and I've said some things in fun. I've said it as an entertainer doing The Apprentice, and you know how successful. I just saw Steve Burkhardt said they wanted to renew me for 2 years, and I didn't do it because of this, but a lot of that was entertainment. There is nobody that respects women more than I do. There is nobody that will take care of women's health issues better than I will. Hillary cannot do it, believe me. She doesn't have the strength, the energy. She will not be able to do it. And I think that women will be big fans. Look, they want to see security for our country, and I rate #1 in every poll on security with the military. The military is endorsing me. I just got endorsed by the Border Patrol. 16,000 agents. They've never done that
Let's
before.
get to some of our town hall questioners, because I think Willie's got one right here.
Mr. Trump, good morning. Good to see you.
morning.
We've got a lot of questions, so let's get started with Andrew Sullivan, Brooklyn, New York, registered Republican and a supporter of yours.
Thank you. Hi.
Hello, Mr. Trump. Full disclosure, I did work for you, and I appreciate the 10 years of good union construction work you provided for me and my family. God bless you.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
What's your question, sir?
The question is this. In regards to ISIS, I sincerely appreciate the aggressive stance you want to take with them. And my question, how do we avoid the pitfalls of the past, in part by getting involved yet again in this perpetual state of war with no end in sight?
And it's such an important question. You know, I was against the war in Iraq. I said, you don't go in, you're going to destabilize the Middle East. I was so strong against Iraq. We went in, we made a terrible mistake in going in, then we got out the wrong way. ISIS, as a matter of fact, was created because of the way we got out and because of the bad moves we made even while we were there. But we now have to do something. We have to knock the hell out of them. We're going to get them out. We're going to help. We're going to get the countries in that region to put up their manpower, or they've got big problems, and a lot of that's going to be leadership. But we do have to get rid of ISIS. We are going to make it impossible for ISIS to survive. They're cutting off heads. They're drowning people in steel cages. It's like medieval times. I've never seen anything like it. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. So we are going to get rid of ISIS. And by the way, speaking of that, our military has been decimated with cuts and everything else. We're going to rebuild our military. It's going to be bigger, better, stronger than ever before. Hopefully we don't have to use it. But the one place we will be using it is to get rid of ISIS. Great question. Thank you.
So just to make sure I'm clear here, you're going to bomb the you-know-what out of ISIS, but you have a comprehensive plan for what to do in that region afterward?
You know, one of the things that running for office is interesting, because they'll ask you questions like that. And I did. I said bomb the oil. I've been saying that from the beginning. They never did it. Then they started it on a very limited basis. Right now, Libya, as you know, has fantastic oil, some of the finest oil in the world. Who has the oil? ISIS has the oil. Do we blockade it? Do we bomb it? Do we do anything? No. ISIS is making a fortune now in Libya. That was a Hillary Clinton deal. She wanted to go in. She wanted to get rid of Gaddafi. For what reason? I mean, look, Gaddafi was a bad guy. Saddam Hussein was a bad guy. They had one thing in common. They killed terrorists, okay? We would have been better off if we never looked at the Middle East for the last 15 years.
Let's get to another question.
Okay, Mr. Trump, I've got Jamie Heckman Ulloa. She's from West Sayville, New York, a registered Republican, married, 3 kids, still undecided.
My relative is a natural-born American in the military deployed in Oman. His father and his stepmother are undocumented citizens here in the undocumented people here in the United States for the last 25 years without any way of adjusting their status. If you're president, what will you do for those members that are of our fabric of our country that have been here for 25 years undocumented.
Won't they be deported under your plan?
When you say natural-born citizen, it's interesting because why do you mention that? I assume that you were born here, but why do you mention that? Because you know who always says that? Ted Cruz. Because he was born in Canada and lived there for 4 years. People are trying to figure. So he always says, I'm a natural-born citizen, when actually he's not, because he was born in Canada. But you know what? He has no path right now, so
What's
we
your
don't even
plan
have
for
to
her
mention.
relatives?
They've been here how many years?
About 25 years.
So we're going to do something for people that have been here. Look, we're either going to have a country or we're not going to have a country. But many people are very fine people, and I'm sure these are very, very fine people. They're going to go, and we're going to create a path where we can get them into this country legally, okay? But it has to be done legally.
But you
Otherwise,
will
we don't have a
deport them
country.
first,
They're
correct?
going to be, and they're going to come back, and they're going to come back legally. We have some wonderful people. It's too tough to say you'll never come back again. They're coming back, but they're coming back into our country legally. So important. Now, that might not be the perfect answer for you, but am I going to get your vote?
By the way, they are from Ecuador, and I'm organizing the relief effort for Ecuador, and I need
Good.
transportation for volunteers and supplies.
Okay, very good. Just get a little
Willie,
plug.
you have a Twitter question?
Yeah, we're getting thousands of questions on Twitter, Mr. Trump. I picked one here. This is from Jessica Hershey, Toms River, New Jersey. I'll just read it as a quote on a hot button issue here. Mr. Trump, please be specific. Tell us your views on LGBT, how you plan to be inclusive as president. Speak about North Carolina bathroom law in particular.
Oh, I had a feeling that question was going to come up. I will tell you. Well, look, North Carolina did something that was very strong, and they're paying a big price, and there's a lot of problems. And I heard one of the best answers I heard was from a commentator yesterday saying, leave it the way it is right now. There have been very few problems. Leave it the way it is. North Carolina, what they're going through with all of the business that's leaving and all of the strife, and that's on both sides. You leave it the way it is. There have been very few complaints the way it is. People go, they use the bathroom that they feel is appropriate. There has been so little trouble. And the problem with what happened in North Carolina is the strife and the economic punishment that they're taking. So I would say that's
transgender
probably
people
the best
working
way.
in your organization?
I don't know.
No?
I really don't know. I probably do. I really don't know.
So if Caitlyn Jenner were to walk into Trump Tower and want to use the bathroom, you would be fine with her using any bathroom she chooses?
That is correct.
Okay.
Different issue, also a social issue.
You know, there's a big move to create new bathrooms. Problem with that is for transgender, that would be first of all, I think that would be discriminatory in a certain way. It would be unbelievably expensive for businesses and for the country. Leave it the way it is.
Let's talk about abortion, another potent social issue. The Republican platform every 4 years has a provision that states that the right of the unborn child shall not be infringed, and it makes no exceptions for rape, for incest, for the life of the mother. Would you want to change the Republican platform to include the exceptions that you have?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. Absolutely, for the three exceptions.
Would you have an exception for the health of the mother?
I would leave it for the life of the mother, but I would absolutely have the three exceptions.
Okay, Willie.
All right, let's go back to the crowd here, Mr. Trump. Dr. Priscilla Paramus Warren of Scarsdale, New York. She's married with one son, registered Republican, and a supporter of yours.
Thank you.
Mr. Trump, your wife Melania suggested that you be presidential. Can you tell us some of the things that you have done to be more presidential?
Well, it's true. Melania would like me to not hit as hard sometimes, and yet, you know, when I started, we had 17 people, and I was being hit from every angle by governors and senators and really smart and wonderful people. He endorsed me, Ben Carson and others, and Chris Christie, another one. And, you know, you're being hit pretty hard. I felt that I had to hit back very hard. And I think if I acted very presidential, I wouldn't be sitting up here today. Somebody else might be. It wouldn't be me. So I will tell you, it's easier for me to be presidential than for me to be doing what I've been doing for the last really 9 months. But at the right time, I will be so presidential. You will be so bored. You will say, can he have a little bit more energy? But I know when to be presidential. We have 2 more left. They have absolutely no path to victory. In fact, it was announced this morning they have no path to victory. And we have a very easy path to victory, and I think they'll be gone very soon.
On the Democratic side of
Two
things,
good people, but I think they'll be gone very soon.
on the Democratic side of things, the huge issue is Wall Street banks. I mean, they're firing at each other on that subject. You're a guy who said you know the Wall Street bankers better than anyone.
Better than anyone.
All right. After the 2008 financial meltdown, do you think any of the guys you know better than anyone should have been in jail?
So it's a question I've heard so often, I've been asked so often, and the answer is if they did something purposely illegal, the answer is absolutely yes. Now, with all of that being said, I don't believe anybody has really been indicted and gone to jail, which is pretty amazing, because I'm sure there was some pretty bad moves made. I will say this. A lot of mistakes were made. You can't put a businessman in jail because he made a bad business decision. You know, they want to do well. And for the most part, Wall Street bankers want to do well. I know so many of them. You know so many of them. They want to do well. They're good people like everyone else. Got a lot of money. I think they're paid too much money, but what are you going to do? I mean, you know, it's one of those things.
Does it ever
if they make a business mistake, you can't put people in jail. If they do something that they know is illegal and wrong, you got to put them in jail.
Does it ever surprise you that so many of your supporters are so angry at those banks because they feel the decks are stacked against them, and yet you're the guy they're supporting, and you're a guy who's been given every single advantage those banks can give to the wealthiest Americans?
Well, I have taken advantage of the banks probably more than any human being on earth. I love banks, right? I love banks. And I love fighting with banks if I have to. I mean, you know, depends on what happens. The economy goes up, it goes down. But I found bankers to be very good people. I found them to be very honorable people. Generally speaking, they want to do what's right for the country. But again, you know, I've known some bad dudes. You've known some bad dudes, Matt. I mean, I've been at parties that I've seen you, and I've seen these people in the same room as us. You know, there are some people out there that are not good people. For the most part, I have to say, though, Wall Street people, they're aggressive, they're tough, they're smart, and they bring a lot of money and a lot of jobs into this country.
Do you believe in raising taxes on the wealthy?
I do, including myself. I do.
Willie, I'm with Ella Walder. She is right here in New York City, registered Republican, undecided, but leaning your way.
Good morning, Mr. Trump, and congratulations on your big win in New York.
Thank you very much.
My question to you is, can you please share with us a single most important lesson that you've learned growing up? And who do you consider a mentor now, and why?
Well, it's a great question, and I'm not asked it very often, but I will tell you a real lesson. My father was a builder in Brooklyn and Queens. He'd build housing, and he loved to work. And he didn't say, you have to work and you have to this, but I would learn sitting at his knee, playing with blocks. And it would be a Sunday or Saturday night or anytime. He was always working, and he was a happy man. And I learned that work is a great thing. That, you know, I looked at my father, and he had a wonderful wife. They had a fantastic marriage. It was 63 years. It was an incredible relationship. But my father was a very happy person. And all he did is work. He couldn't take a vacation. I don't think he's ever taken a vacation. One time he told me he took a vacation and he came back early. He was happy. He was content. He had a great family. He had a great wife. And what I learned is that when you work, and if you enjoy what you're doing, if you really love what you're doing, it's a great thing, and you'll be happy. I know so many of the people. Many of them were at the big celebration the other night. They're all friends of mine, the biggest business people. Now, I'm not going to specify which, but some of these people, unbelievably wealthy, but unbelievably unhappy.
Let me ask you about something in the news this morning. As you've seen, Harriet Tubman will now replace Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill. You have so often during this campaign railed against political correctness. Do you see this as a move that is all about political correctness, or is this a move that is simply way overdue?
Well, Andrew Jackson had a great history, and I think it's very rough when you take somebody off the bill. Andrew Jackson had a history of tremendous success for the country, and as you know, they were going to do, you know, the $10 bill, and then all of a sudden the Broadway play Hamilton, or the Broadway play sort of saved that one. And I read it just this morning. It was going to be Hamilton.
Are you in favor of Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill?
I think Harriet Tubman is fantastic. I would love to leave Andrew Jackson and see if we can maybe come up with another denomination. Maybe we do the $2 bill, or we do another bill. I don't like seeing it. Yes, I think it's pure political correctness. Been on the bill for many, many years, and you know, really represented somebody that really was very important to this country. I would love to see another denomination and that could take place. I think it would be more appropriate.
Mr. Trump, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank
we
you.
thank everybody here for their questions. We're going to have a lot more on a Thursday morning.